PlayStation Plus gets a bad rap for not having anything to offer in its catalog, but today I'm gonna break down 15 games you should check out that will be worth your time. So if you're wishing you had more to play or just want to overload your backlog, this is the video for you, so let's jump into it. First up, we have Death Stranding. You're playing as Sam, voiced and modeled after Norman Reedus. You might know him from the Walking Dead TV series, but you're given the job of reconnecting people in the United States after the world fell apart. This is a survival game, but with the twist that everything is literally carried on your back, and most of the time you'll be picking up a package to deliver to somebody far away. The game also has a stamina system that will slow you down, so you can't just walk for miles without taking a break. This game really wants you to take your time while traveling, which I thought I would hate, but turned out I grew to love it. The idea of walking around in a game with barely any fast travel sounds really bad, but somehow Death Stranding makes me enjoy it. For the most part, it's just Sam by himself. Well, not completely alone, but you'll have to play the game to understand. Having the music kick in by itself while you're climbing a mountain or coming to an open field is really special. With the great game visuals on PS5, this world is very detailed and beautiful. As you travel, you'll notice other player buildings that will help you on your journey. There's a social aspect to it as well, because you can like the stuff left by other players, which just feels good. The game does start off difficult and can be frustrating before you unlock certain gear to make travel easier. Now especially is a great time to jump on it because Death Stranding 2 on the Beach is releasing in June of this year. I didn't really get Death Stranding until I played it, but that's the beauty of PlayStation Plus. I can play it without buying it. Okay, and number 2 is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This is a 2.5D side-scroller, sort of a reboot of the franchise, following the story of Sargon, who is part of the Immortal Seven, a group of skilled warriors who need to find a prince that has been kidnapped while they are in the middle of a war. So you got your basic attacks and the ability to parry enemies, and as you fight more enemies, you charge up Othra, which is a resource you can use to spend on certain skills. If you take damage, your Othra goes down, so balancing spending it and not getting hit too much is really key here. But even though this is a 2.5D game, the cutscenes are fully cinematic, and completing this game will take roughly 20 to 25 hours. For a full completion, it's going to take you closer to 30 to 35 hours. It's on the shorter side and doesn't overstay its welcome. This game really fell under the radar and I had no reason to pick it up. Usually side-scrollers aren't normally my style, but it is a great game to play. Would I buy this game at full price? Probably not, but that's the beauty of PlayStation Plus. I don't have to. Moving on to number 3, we have Control. This is a paranormal shooter where you're playing as Jessie. She's looking for her brother who was taken away by a group called the Federal Bureau of Control. There's a lot of freaky weird stuff going on here. The game definitely leans into the horror bits. Not to say that this game is very scary or anything. You get a gun that shoots rounds that reload after a set amount of time, and you can mod this gun for better close-up shooting, making it like a pocket shotgun if you want, or you can hang back far away and upgrade it with a faster fire rate. Then there are the powers you get as you play the game, like telekinesis. This lets you throw things at enemies. Mixing throwing stuff and shooting bullets feels good and satisfying. There are checkpoints called control points, and these are where you respawn if you die. This is also where you upgrade your weapons and abilities as well as mod your gun. The enemies are unique as well, and the world and story was really interesting. It's kind of like Men in Black, but with a much more shady government group. If you're looking for something new to play, give it a try. It was a lot of fun. Next at number 4, we have Watch Dogs. This is a Ubisoft title from 2014 that at first was off to a bad start because the graphics didn't quite line up with the gameplay when it was actually released. You play as Aiden, a hacker out for revenge after the death of his niece. With this being an open world game, Aiden spends a lot of his time hacking people and learning who they are, what crimes they might have done, and their more private details. This is also a way for you to get money to spend on things you need, like weapons and cars. I really think this was a good idea. Showing how easy it is to steal identities and passwords is somewhat like the real world. The game offers some stealth options too. Aiden can set off car alarms or blow up enemies. This gives you a lot of options to take out enemies without being seen. There are guns too, so if you just want to go in guns blazing, you can do that, but it's very hard not to get overwhelmed and might not always be the best option to do that. There are also some bigger hacks you can do, like blacking out the area, making it easier to sneak away from enemies, but it is a 2014 game and some things feel a little dated, like shooting and driving cars. But it is an interesting game concept with the hacking and a vigilante story, so give it a try. Okay, moving on to number 5, we have Guardians of the Galaxy. And stay with me here, I promise this game is worth hearing about. I know games based on a popular movie are usually not very good. This one is different. This is a new adventure following the Guardians featuring Quill and the whole gang, and I gotta say the graphics are really great in this game. And on top of that, the back and forth between the team is both funny and doesn't overstay its welcome. I found myself looking forward to what comments they would have about what was happening, and the gameplay is a lot of fun too. As Quill, you can tell your team what skills to use in and outside of fights. In combat, you got skills that do big damage on a single enemy, a skill that does damage over a bunch of enemies, and stuff like that. It all depends on which Guardian you want to use at the time. There's also a Guardian huddle mode where you try to hype up your team for a damage boost, and if you fail, they kind of just make fun of you, which is hilarious. Using different skills together while blasting away enemies using your dual blasters is great, and the game just has really great graphics, interesting characters, and if you like Marvel, that's a bonus, but it's not required. I've only seen part of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, but still really enjoyed this game and didn't feel like I was lost. Number 6 on the list is Man-Eater. This isn't any kind of crazy story or world-breaking gameplay here, it's just good old-fashioned video game fun. Kill stuff to level up your shark and grow bigger. Do that enough and then you can evolve, which will unlock more skills for the shark. And most of the time, this is what the game will have you doing. I really like that it's not a game that drags out how long you will have to play it for. You can make a lot of progress through this game in a short amount of time. There's nothing here not to like unless the gore is too much for you. Not to mention the fact that the game is narrated as you play it. So it's basically like having a nature documentary that's interactive. It's both factual and entertaining, so how could you not like it? But there's some good gameplay here, and the game does a great job of making you feel like a dangerous shark, so check it out. Number 7 is Nioh. This is a Souls-like following the story of William Adams, who becomes a samurai. He's trying to stop plans to prevent the downfall of Japan. Being a Souls-like, the enemies can be really hard to beat. You're not going to be able to run around hitting people without some thought. You can choose from different weapons like axes, swords, and polearms, and there are also different stances that change the way weapons work, and each weapon has its own pros and cons to it. Big axes do a lot more damage but are slow, whereas swords are a lot faster. You can carry 2 weapons at a time and wear all sorts of different armor. Since this is a Souls-like game, there are shrines that you can pray at. These are basically checkpoints that will refill your healing items. This will also respawn enemies in the area. It also lets you upgrade your character while you're here, but if you're into beating hard enemies and want rewarding gameplay, give this one a try. Moving on to number 8 is Kena, Bridge of Spirits. This is a story about helping spirits move on to the afterlife and dealing with those spirits that lose their way and don't want to move on yet. The world is very visually colorful and great to look at. Kena can block and parry and has a light and heavy attack. There are also these creatures called rot that you can find around the world, and as you find more of them, they will help you out throughout the game, moving heavy stuff so you can solve puzzles or healing you as you fight off enemies. This game really fell under the radar for me, and I had no idea that it even released until it came to PlayStation Plus, but if you're looking for an interesting and chill game, give this one a try. Next at number 9 is Killing Floor 2. This is a co-op zombie horde mode type game with unique perks and enemies. In the game, the zombies are called Zeds. First, let's talk about the perk loadouts, which lets you use certain weapons and skills. The combat itself is a lot of fun and chaotic since you have up to 5 other players to play with. Every player has their own healing ability that can be used on them or another player. There's also Zed time that slows things down when you get headshots or kill multiple enemies. And after completing a round, you'll be directed to the shop to refill on ammo or buy new weapons and armor. Then once the countdown ends, it's time to kill more Zeds. But it's not as easy because there are boss rounds that unleash big Zeds that do a ton of damage and have a ton of health. And actually, one of the best things about Killing Floor 2 was that it allows you to pick how many rounds you'll play, and also how difficult those rounds will be. This is great because sometimes you only want to play for a short while and don't want to be that person that leaves a team-based game early. But if you're into horde mode and zombies, definitely give this one a try. Number 10 is Ghostrunner 2. This is a story about a sci-fi robo-samurai that's running around slashing and hacking up people. And this game has some of the quickest combat I've seen in any game. And when I say this is fast combat, I really mean it. If you get shot, you will be instantly killed and have to restart, usually right before the encounter that killed you. So to avoid dying, you have a lot of parkour and sliding abilities. This lets you jump, dash, and slide around enemies to kill them before they even have time to react to you. There is also a grappling hook and wall running. All of these movements allow you to get around enemies quickly and from different angles, making it hard to shoot you. But if you think you're going to run up and kill each enemy, you will quickly learn that that won't work. This makes the gameplay super addictive since you're quickly restarting and jumping right back into the combat with a very small delay. It's so satisfying and frustrating at the same time. And a lot of games I just kind of go through the levels, not really paying attention to what enemies are doing. but being distracted here will end in your death. Quick gameplay, making you have to think about how to get past enemies, it's a lot of fun. Check out Ghostrunner 2. Number 11 on the list is Remnant 2. This one at first reminded me a lot of a free-to-play game like Warframe or The First Descendant, but it's completely different from those games. Remnant 2 has an interesting story and is a survival action RPG, but unlike a free-to-play game like Warframe, there is no cash shop or battle pass in this game. The story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where humanity has faced these creatures called the Deadwood. You're then given the choice to choose what your character's archetype is. There are choices such as Challenger, Medic, or Handler, but these are really just your normal tank, DPS, and healer. Firing off a machine gun and then using a skill to drop a healing circle for your team just feels good. You can play this game solo or with 2 other players online, and it does make a big difference having teammates available to heal you or do extra damage in a fight. But most surprising to me was that the story lets you make choices that have real consequences. At one point, I had to choose to work with some shady people or refuse, and I was expecting the game to just make me work with them anyway to keep the story moving, but no, they ended up throwing me in jail and I had to fight my way out, which was surprising. I really think you should check this one out. All these games on this list are free for PlayStation Plus users, so you should at least give it a try. I think you'll enjoy this one. Number 12 on the list is infamous Second Son. This is a great example of what made Sucker Punch a great studio. Because before there was Ghost of Tsushima, there was the Infamous series of games. And yes, I know, don't come after me. I know it would be great to have Infamous 1 and 2 natively on PlayStation Plus without streaming, but hey, here we are. But Second Son is the third Infamous game, and it has a brand new character and story, so you don't have to be familiar with the previous games. But it's a really good game, and graphically, it still holds up well, even though it's from 2014. The powers you collect throughout the game look really good. Running around with bright pink neon powers or shooting video streams at people is very satisfying. There are 4 different powers to unlock, and each one has its own unique abilities tied to it. But there's also a karma system that influences the story based on how good or bad you want to play. This also affects how people around the city interact with you, and you'll either be loved or hated. A classic game like this is really underrated to be in the PlayStation Plus catalog, so definitely give it a try. Number 13 is God of War, the 2018 remake. One of the best games to release on PlayStation in the last decade. This is one of those defining games that really shows why people buy PlayStations. I mean, Kratos is one of the most known PlayStation characters ever. You kind of owe it to yourself to at least play one God of War game, but this time we're not dealing with Greek gods anymore. It's all about Norse mythology now. And this feels like a natural step forward for the series, because Kratos is older and he has a family. But if you haven't ever played a God of War game, this is a great place to jump into without being super confused. Instead of hacking and slashing enemies from a wider field of view, like previous games, this time around, everything is from right behind Kratos, so you're always right up close to the action. Throwing your axe and freezing an enemy and then punching someone next to them is really satisfying. There's several different upgrades for you and your axe, as well as upgrades for Atreus, your son that travels with you on your journey. Give this one a try, I don't think you'll regret it, and if you've already played it, God of War Ragnarok is also included, so I'm tying these two together as 2 games you have to play from this list. Number 14 is Dave the Diver. This is a game about adventuring into the sea, harpooning fish, and searching for items during the day, and then managing a restaurant that sells sushi during the evening. Both of these together give the game a great loop where nothing ever feels stale. And unlike some of the other games on this list, this one isn't a huge time commitment. The underwater sections where you search for fish to capture is fun, and you have a limited amount of oxygen, so don't take too much time searching for stuff. You then take that fish back to your restaurant and help serve the sushi to customers. So if you're looking for something that will be a fun time and relaxing, this one is a great pick. Number 15 is Like a Dragon Ishin. With Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza releasing in February and being very popular, and Infinite Wealth releasing in 2024 to great success as well, I've been dying to find a good starting point for the series. Ishin is a spin-off and doesn't directly follow the mainline games. This makes it a great place to start with the series, and this one isn't turn-based like some of the older games are. Ishin has different fighting stances that change the way you play. There's a sword stance, gun and sword, gun, and a fist stance. The more you use each one, the faster you will unlock more abilities to use. Compared to Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, this one has a more serious tone because you're fighting to remove the class system that is ruling over the land and discriminating against the locals. But there are still some silly moments, especially with the combat. It is fully dubbed though, so there's no English voices and you'll have to read subtitles. But the gameplay is great and I've really been enjoying the story, so give it a try. Okay, so there's some more games that didn't quite make the list but you might enjoy. Wolfenstein: The New Order is a great one where you're fighting Nazis in an alternate universe where they won the war. Great combat, and the fact that you can run around dual-wielding machine guns is pretty awesome. The entire Wolfenstein series is on PlayStation Plus, so if you're looking for a series of games you can get into, give that one a try. And that's it, 15 games you should check out on PlayStation Plus. It really can be worth it if you find the right games, but let me know in the comments below what you're playing, even if it's not on this list. I'd like to know, so let's talk about it down below. Thanks for watching, until next time.